I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me. Gon' back it up. Matter what? Told you I'ma do me. Why you hating on me? It's not adding up.
All right, welcome to the second installment of SharkLife Podcast. What up, Josh?
Hey, Ryan, what's up, buddy?
Long time no see.
Yeah, man, it's been this weekend got kind of blown out, so we didn't get to do too much diving, unfortunately.
I know. Oh, God, that's part of the Shark Life. Nobody likes to talk about that on the gram. It's, I got out, Thursday? And Miss Snooty was the first one to greet us, which felt super fitting. I felt like she was kind of pissed off at me, like, where you been? But saw Snooty and a few others, did 2 trips, and then the wind was like, wow, welcome to land.
I know. It's been like that all this week, too, so hopefully I've got a big weekend plan getting people out there, so I fingers crossed it goes off. I think Saturday we'll be able to get out, no problem.
You say no problem?
I said no problem in my mind, but I don't have to worry about the problems. I just have to get in the water. So
yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm watching it closely. Yeah, Sunday's out. Saturday I'm definitely optimistic about. We'll see what happens there. I guess we'll kick it off with some of the questions I put up on Instagram.
Let's do it.
What were some of the things people wanted us to talk about? And we said, what was one of the first ones? The misconceptions.
A little Shark Mythbusters episode over here.
I got a good one.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Damn shark feeders changing the shark's behavior.
Oof, that's the point of contention, unfortunately, between shark divers and everyone else on a boat in the same areas that we operate.
It's funny, so to get right to it, obviously it's a myth. These are highly migratory animals moving, some like a silky shark, a blue shark, depending on which animal you're working with, 100 miles in a day. The fact that some go to an agratory site, not a migratory site, like Jupiter. There's an aggregation, lemon sharks. So yeah, we do see individuals. Doesn't mean we're changing their behavior. It's the same scavenging, reactionary behavior that you're going to get, whether it's a fish with a hook coming off of a pole, or whether it's me shaking a crate with a fish that's already dead in it. The same reaction is going to come from that animal either way. So my sarcasm to start the myth and misconception there, that's the reality of it, is these animals are going to react the same way either way, whether it's us or a fisherman. But the old mentality is that you can change wild animals' behaviors. But these aren't bears. These are fish that live in the ocean. And I see people all the time, the keyboard warriors on social media, like, oh, but would you feed a bear? And I'm like, no. But a bear's not a shark. So here's the conversation at hand, But yeah, that's a myth and a misconception that I'm passionate about because of what we do for a living. And we take heat for it. Like, oh, I heard you're changing the shark's behavior. Fishermen are having a problem with it. It's like, no, fishermen's having the same problem they did before shark ecotourism even existed. That's what sharks do.
Yeah, of course. And I think that it's a tough conversation because people seem to think so. Sharks they're the apex predator in the ocean. They're a highly intelligent animal, and they're highly calculated as well. So everything that they do, they look at like a calculated risk. So if I decide to try and eat this, what are the odds that I'm actually going to get sustenance, get energy from this food source, and what are the odds that I'm going to be swimming away having wasted some energy trying to go after that? So kind of the bottom line is that the sharks react to a number of different stimuli that you mentioned before. One of them being sound, vibrations in the water. Of course, they use their lateral line to sense pressure changes as well. But the big thing, of course, is going to be the smell of what we'll call the bait. So blood or decaying matter in the water is what sharks have a very, very sensitive sense of smell with their snout, and they can kind of pick that stuff up. And what they're going after is that smell, and that's what they've always been doing. So whether or not we have bait in the water that they're investigating, or there's a fish on the end of a line that's thrashing around and bleeding, it's the same difference. So it's not, there's no change in the shark's behavior. The sharks might learn a little bit that, hey, if there's boats in the water and they can hear that sort of thing or sense that in the water, there may be a food source, but that absolutely does not lead the sharks to seeking out fishing boats and pulling fish off the end of the lines, or seeking out people in the hopes that, hey, these people might feed us. So the sharks, unless they smell that bait, there's no reason for them to swim up with people and causes unnecessary, interaction. Of course, they're not, they learn behavior, but they don't plan ahead, if that makes sense. It's more of a reactionary response.
Right. There is a short-term study out of Bimini Shark Lab about lemon sharks, and basically there's like plates, and they learn to react to the plate, and there is a food source demonstrated. But they're not going to recognize a diver from a fishing boat. There's no specific recognition there, but there is source recognition that's been studied. They are extremely smart animals, but bottom line is they're not just going to change their migratory routes. They're not going to give up on the prey source that they've been used to feeding on their entire life just because there's a free snack once in a while. Especially now, look, you think that if we change their behavior, we've been out for days and days and days. We just went back to the SharkLife. There's no shark divers out right now in the winds like this. Sharks still got to be a shark.
Of course. And I think a big thing that I try and think about with this, right, is I hear a lot of people say that sometimes you pull up to a dive site and there's sharks already there because they hear the boat. They've been associating the boat with food, and that's why they're around, right? But again, at the end of the day, it's still that smell and that scent from the bait. So if you've got a boat and they hear it, they might be in the area. They might go to investigate because they investigate everything. And then if they smell bait, sure, they'll roll up to the boat. There might be shark divers there. There might be a fish thrashing around on the end of the line, and that's what they're going after. If they feel or sense a boat or hear it and they roll up to the boat and then there's no bait in the water, they might stick around a little bit to see what happens, but they're not going to come up and interact unless there's food in the water. That's kind of, I'm not the expert on this, but I that's sincerely how I feel, having spent the amount of time in the water with the sharks that we have.
Noted. I'm with it. I'm with Heavy. Back over. Gotta get used to the buttons again. Week 2. I'm stoked I got the skin thing all figured out, and I got the microphones we gotta figure out next. I like the standing vibe. I feel good about the standing vibe.
More fluid, comfortable. You can move around. I'll get on that jam for the next couple episodes.
I'm normally like up and moving at high speed anyway, so it doesn't feel right to be sitting down and having a conversation.
I do feel a little sedentary sitting here on the couch, so I'll get my setup sorted sooner rather.
I'm lonely over there.
Well, lonely all the time, man.
So right here's where I put up your phone number across the bottom of your screen for the world.
My Instagram, slide into my DMs. I'm just looking for people to talk to. That's all good.
There we go. All right, what was another one? Scariest moments. Mine, I know. Mine.
I think I know the story you're about to tell, but please.
You get both sides of it. I think it's always funny when like we actually hear both sides of that story.
Sure.
Because my perspective of everything in life is different for people, but in that situation, I didn't see shit compared to y'all. So yeah, mine, that was one of them. Scariest moment for me. We were in Cabo. It was 3 trips ago, two full years. It gets confused. You like refer to it that way, but so 3 Cabo trips ago, we were having trouble. I didn't have 2 groups then. We had 1 group, but we did 3 days.
Just the one. Mm-hmm.
And the first day, code skunk. I'm like, yo, how's your tummy feel? And you're like, it feels like this. I'm like, shit. So anyways.
Feels like we're not going to get anything.
Yeah, we definitely knew what was coming on those days. But that year was kind of where we learned it, because that's where we started to spin. I remember feeling nauseous one of the days. It was that second night. I remember saying to Miguel, it happened just like this year. I was like, hey, Miguel, we're about done here. Let's cut it. I'm like, I don't think this is going to work out. Did you change the wrangle head, though? And he was like, no, I haven't. And I was like, all right, you know what? Let's give it 10 more minutes, change out the wrangle head, throw it back in. Let's have some fresh blood in the water and see what happens. And was it the Mako or Blue? A Mako showed up first. And we got in with the Mako. And then I remember everybody being excited. You were out towards the wrangle line on the other end. I was towards the back of the boat. And I remember like seeing the blue come in. I'm like, it's been out there because of the Mako. I'm going to dive down and get a shot. And I just remember diving down. And on the first shot, I felt totally normal. And then on the second shot, it was the impact. And that was the impulse of Mako coming in out of nowhere. I never saw it coming. And it literally hit the blue shark inches in front of my camera. And the blue shark went one way, the Mako shark went the other way. And I just went up saying words that I don't even remember what came out of my snorkel. But yeah, that to me, just because, and I've never been, people ask all the time, have you ever been scared in the water? I always say no, because it's never like a moment I'm in fear for my life, but that was my biggest oh shit moment. Like, what just happened? It happened so fast, and we know Makos are the fastest shark in the ocean, but to see the burst happen in front of me like that and not watch it on a Shark Week program, like, to see that burst and hit another shark, it was like, whoa, check my space. Like, I got it. So that's mine. You saw it.
And I was walking. I was right. You dove down to maybe 25, 30 feet, and I was almost directly above you, and I was just watching the blue shark because those were my favorite. And I could see the Mako coming. I could see it starting to pick up speed and make a beeline for you, and there was absolutely nothing I could do to help. I felt so useless. We were all screaming at you, obviously, but you can't hear anything underwater, and I was just kind of like, look out, problem, and it happened. And it was really cool to see. Unfortunately, it was at your expense, but you got a really, really rad photo out of it. So that type of behavior, to have that experience in the water is really second to none. And you can't see that without being in with them, which is great.
Yeah, I don't know how much I really saw in front of me. You guys had a wider angle of it. Your lens was definitely more 8 to 15. I was more in the 50 to 100 range, if we're talking in lens sizes. But I remember just seeing shark fireworks in front of me. I'm going to see if maybe we can get that picture in here. I got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Sweet.
It's a great shot. And did you close your eyes while it was happening? I would have been like this.
I don't remember. I remember, like, just impulse firing the shot. I remember hitting the shutter, like, I feel like it was either shutter or shit myself, and shutter was the first reaction to lead to less embarrassment.
In the end, you did both. So
yeah, it was it was just I remember watching it happen in front of me. So if my eyes closed, it was like one of those. But no, I remember seeing the impact. I never saw the mako before its snout hit the blue shark. So like I remember that clear, and then I remember the way to the surface as I'm swimming up. But yeah, that was my number one oh shit moment so far.
Yeah, that's I thought that was pretty cool.
Covered yours last.
Yeah, that was kind of like my shark one. And then I've got a couple of other of those moments that happened, whether it was free diving or scuba diving. The first, I think the time that I've ever felt the most uncomfortable in the water is certainly once when I was diving on Juneau Ledge off of Jupiter. So just doing a kind of the standard ledge dive there, 75 to 95 feet deep, and just kind of cruised along, sharks, turtles, all kinds of fish. And it was kind of a rough day. It was maybe working up to 4 or 5 feet kind of mid-morning. But the boat still went out. I don't have a problem in bad conditions. I don't mind because, you dip under the surface and it's fine.
Count me out.
No, man, there could be a kraken attacking the dive boat next to us, and I'll jump in and take a look. It's all good here. But hey, drifting along Juneau Ledge, I was coming up. There was a couple divers left. It was time to go up about 50 minutes, and you all kind of ascend to the surface, and the current kind of pushes you around a little bit. And when I hit the surface, it was like white out rain conditions. So for anybody watching this that doesn't live in Florida, in the summertime, we get sporadic monsoons, maybe for 20 minutes to an hour a day. It'll just blast rain. And I popped up, and that's exactly what was happening. For one, it was so loud, I couldn't even hear myself think because it was raining so hard. About 5 foot seas, so I was thrashing up and down, and then I couldn't see anything. So I said to myself, well, the boat's certainly not going to be able to pick me up in this instance. So I had about 800 PSI left in my tank. I dipped down to about 10 feet because the problem out there, especially during the summer, is there's plenty of boats around. So if there's a problem, somebody will be able to help you. But on the flip side, there's plenty of boats around to accidentally run you over. So I agree.
Very little brains in our area.
Unfortunately, the thing that scares me is the term boat followed by the term rental. That just implies a problem that's about to happen. So, I hung down a little bit underwater just to wait for this rain to stop. Popped back up. It was still going. I couldn't see the boat. And man, I was floating there for 45 minutes by myself before the rain let up. The boat was only a couple hundred yards away, but all the thoughts that are going through your head of, where am I? I hope somebody doesn't crash into me. What if they forget that I was on the boat? So that wasn't great. I wouldn't recommend giving that a shot if you have that opportunity.
We used to brief that, and on days we know it's going to be like that because we go with both our methods of detach or throw a line. But if we're detached and we know that storms could be rolling through, we'll brief that because you could pop up. One of the big things is just stay together, deploy safety sausages, just make yourself as seen as you can. But it's something we talk about. I mean, here in Florida, one of the sayings is you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes and it'll change.
We'll have some different weather.
No.
Knee slapper.
Yeah, the bird. Oh no, don't start, bird. We might have to head to a commercial break on that cue.
Yeah, get Coco to calm down.
She's good. Let's do it. Oof. All right. So we covered a couple. I feel good about it.
Make something up, man. They can't see the screen.
The Coach Shaquille O'Neal replied, "Hey, not many people. Nobody yet. I have a couple guests in mind. I definitely have a couple guests in mind I want to reach out to this week. Maybe next week we start. We mentioned Schellenberg. He's still in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think he's leaving tomorrow, and he's had days worth of blue sharks, mako encounters, and he got that smooth hammerhead the other day, and that man, I'm really jealous. There's no other way to describe that. I would have loved to have been in the water with that shark.
That's twice we brought him up, so he's going to have to be next week's guest. I hope he's not too freaking tired of the travel. But he got, I keep forgetting the other name, and I'm putting you on the spot too, and it's okay if you don't remember. But it's the second largest mobula species. They have them today. The ones that
the Monkeyana is the small one.
Yeah, it's the next one.
Yep.
Like if you're at Starbucks, it's like the Grande, not the.
Correct. Yeah, it's the one that they call slang wise the devil ray, right? Because it's not a manta, it's not a mobula, it's the kind of one kind of in between.
Yeah, there was less of. So yeah, he did very well. I guess we're going to move next year's trip back to the first week of March. What is it? It's the 8th today, 9th?
I think my mom and dad offered to sponsor an episode of the podcast. So.
Oh yeah. They see the contract. It's a horrible idea. The monster take a crack at having us jumping off the walls first. They're gonna jump in. All right, so one last of the questions, and then we'll move on. Kind of want to talk about football. You see the shit that's been going on.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Jeez. All right, so hey, before we do that, because I could run down that road. The basic misconception, like you said during our commercial break, sponsored by fill in the blank. I crack myself sometimes. I miss the cue, though. I'm not going to press the button. But anyways, there's a line that some people have said, like, it's almost the extremist mentality, right? So you've got the side that's super anti-sharks, anti-shark diving, that side. And then you've got the side that's, oh, sharks, let's cuddle, and let's be the term that needs to find its way to the trash can, sea puppies. They don't want to cuddle. Bottom line, sharks just don't want to cuddle. So that's the extreme side over here that we stay away from as shark divers. And then over on that side, you've got the sharks are man-eaters, they're stealing my fish, there's a whole bunch of bubbles over here of extremism. And then here we are trying to hang out somewhere in the middle and figure out, okay, no, sharks don't want to eat you, but sharks don't want to cuddle with you. So can we find some balance? There's my bird I warned you about now. So
yeah, I think for us on as a shark operator, it's three things, right, that come down to the shark conversation, how we interact in the water with them. So number one would be the safety, of course, that we have for the animals. Two would be respect for the animals. Really goes hand in hand with the safety. And number three, it really should be easier, but unfortunately, it's not. It's common sense. So you're absolutely right. I said common sense. Correct. It doesn't mesh together as well as I think we would like. But listen, we're all about shark conservation and awareness, education, ecotourism, but the safety is absolutely going to be paramount. We can't forget that in this age of bombastic social media, that you have to make good decisions when you're getting in the water with the apex predator in the ocean. So the shark is perfectly adapted for its environment. It is, people like to call it a mindless killing machine. It's not mindless, absolutely not. Is it a killing machine? I wouldn't call it that. I think that's kind of putting it in a negative light. But it is perfectly adapted to feed.
Scavenging machine.
Correct. Exactly.
They're a scavenging machine. They rarely.
Absolutely.
They're picking up scraps if we're going to use the science of it.
Yeah, of course. If you had the option to just find food that was sitting around and still good enough for you to eat, or go out and hunt it yourself, well, of course you'd take the first option. It takes less energy to do that.
And there are hunting sharks. Makos hunt, white sharks hunt. I mean, even wobbegongs, in a way, they're hunting and they're down the middle.
Ambush predators. Yeah,
They're hanging out. Exactly. Ambush predators, they're barely even hunting. So, there's a fine line that needs to be walked with the terminology, because people do end up with this cuddle mentality. Sharks don't want to cuddle. Bottom line, sharks do not want to cuddle. They are not sea puppies. They need to be respected as the white blood cells. There's a chair there. As the white blood cells of the ocean ecosystem that they are. Without sharks, there's no balance. We go into trophic cascade, and everything goes out of whack without sharks. So that's the foundation of the conversation that people need to get and accept. One of the biggest arguments there that comes into this side, the extreme other side, is, oh, well, there's less fish. Well, that's not the sharks' fault. That's overfishing. So the reaction that we spoke of by the sharks earlier is because there's less fish. They're not wrong about that. But the reaction of the sharks is because now there's more competition, with the overfishing being as obvious as it is. Regulations. Mahi is one of the most quickly reproducing, most sustainable fish, and it just got cut in half for what they're allowed. That's how low the numbers have gotten on the most sustainable fish off of Florida's waters. They've had to cut it in half. Of course the sharks are competing more. So this side's over here trying to use that in their argument. You've got both sides that are, cuddly, no. Sharks are the problem, no. And then here we are in the middle trying to find that balance. I'm glad we dove into this, no pun intended. Because it is. It's an important conversation.
Of course, and you can look at it like, overfishing is such a major issue these days, that if we as human beings are trying to target mahi, and the sharks are trying to target mahi or other fish, of course that's going to bring us into contact. That's just how it works if we're both in the market for the same food source. And I always say the same thing, that I say it in our briefing when we bring guests out with the sharks. If you have a shark swimming right at you, the best thing that you can do is absolutely nothing. Just cross your arms, sit right there, give the animal some space, respect it, observe it. That's what we're here to do. Just watch it do its natural behaviors and really just appreciate it for what it is, because it's an incredible animal. And if it's swimming over to you, it's not asking for you to panic and try and swim away. And it's also not asking you to try and give it a belly rub. So just keep your hands to yourself and enjoy.
Yeah, at that point, the behavior side of it too, the reason you stay still is because if we're swimming backwards, you've given yourself up. You're prey now. Now the shark sees you as an object that's trying to get away. So it is best just to sit there, be still, and now you're just another object in the water. You start kicking backwards, now the shark's going to look at you like, all right, what do I got here? So that's a very, very good point. Trying to think if there's any other questions to cover there on the gram.
Yeah, we had a couple of questions about, hey, if it was we're always trying to see new shark species and take photos and document their behavior. So what, within reason, what would be the next new shark species that you would like to make a trip and see?
Oh, that's easy. Oceanic white-tip.
Nice.
It's just timing that keeps screwing us up on that, because the operator that we'll use is Bimini Scuba Center, which is Neil Watson Jr., and they're over there during my wedding this year. So normally they're in May. The aggregation is very specific for the oceanic white-tips off Cat Island. So that's an easy one for me. I've been wanting to get over there for a couple of years. It's not an easy trip. We finally have logistics figured out with private planes and stuff like that. But for me, it's oceanic white-tips. And then I want us to be one of those random great white encounters here. I don't want to have to travel to somewhere where we got to use a cage. Every single year there's people seeing white sharks off where we do our exploratory trips, having white sharks come right up to their damn boats investigating. Like, we're chumming that whole time, but one of these days that's got to be us. So intentionally, the oceanic white tip is what we need to go see in April, May 2023. Like, that's happening no matter what. But just random off the wall, hopefully it happens for us, a white shark. It needs to happen eventually.
Yeah, I think we're on borrowed time with the G-Dub encounter because it happens. I wouldn't. It's not often, but it happens to enough people where we spend that much time in the water, especially doing a shark dive, that I feel like one's just going to kind of come over, see what we're doing, and then kind of be on its way. But that would be very, very exciting for everybody involved.
I'm not going to get greedy.
Oh, that's plenty.
I'll take that. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm longing for it. I saw one on the surface a few years ago. Customer yelled out, "Shark," and we all turned and were like, "Are you kidding me right now?" Like, I grabbed my stuff, but it was rough. We had just called the third dive of a shark dive because it was getting so rough. And I was like, "Try and drop me." And I was pulling some hero shit. And by the time we pulled around with the boat and we saw the animal in the wave, it disappeared into the wave. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not just going to jump in and look for it now.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was my one and only, what felt like 2 minute was probably 20-second white shark encounter. And it was on our way back from our lemon shark spot. I mean, we were not more than, that boat was slow as hell, but realistically 10 minutes south of the lemon shark spot on a normal boat. But, for where we were, it was close. And then there was a white shark seen there. I think it was just a couple months later by one of the other dive boats at the lemon shark spot. So they're there. It'll happen eventually.
Yeah, matter of time. We'll bump into one way or the other, and I can't wait.
What's yours?
That's a tough question. So one that's kind of, there's two dives that I'm really looking to do that I think are accessible. Right, it's not going to be too outrageous of a trip to get over there. So one, I really would like to see the basking shark aggregation off of the UK. So either go to Cornwall in England or off of Ireland. I think it's Cork, the spot that they do see those, just because that's another massive filter feeding animal. And I'm in love with the contrast of the inside white part of its mouth and the gills when it's open compared to the green water. And I'm just like picturing the shot that I really want to get from that.
That's dope. You said accessible though.
Yeah, I mean it's a trip, but it's not. We don't have to travel 24 hours to get there. So it's a little less than going to Malapascau for the Threshers, for example.
Noted.
Mm-hmm.
What's your other?
The other one would be for Greenland Sharks in the St. Lawrence River. So that dive's a little, for lack of a better term, I'll call it a little bit sketchier because the viz isn't very good, and it's very green and it's kind of deep, but there's a lot of current in that area as well. But I kind of fell in love with Greenland Sharks because of just they kind of get that cold water, deep sea gigantism a little bit. So they get massive and they move really slow. And I was reading a story a couple of years ago of someone who was doing that dive. And they were misunderstood as kind of a very slow, dopey scavenger, where absolutely not the case. They were fully aware of the situation and they were displaying hunting and stalking behavior, and their approaches were very calculated. So I just love to see that type of animal in that setting. I think that'd be terrific.
I like it. Another cool one, you're talking about prehistoric looking, the small-toothed sand tigers.
Yes, sir.
So if we get
what was that again?
Well, I mean, the rarest place they're seen is where we go, and it's Cabo. They've been seen off Pelican Rock. But Malpelo. And then there's another spot we were talking about in Cabo a couple weeks ago with Wijdelenberg. I feel like it's up by Spain.
Yes.
Remember that?
Because
that conversation.
Talking about that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying But yeah, that's another one.
The name. Mm-hmm.
Super cool prehistoric. Oh, and the Seven Gills. That's another cool one.
That's accessible as well. Yeah.
That's pretty accessible. Yeah, I would take that. Okay, I'm at 18, so it's getting harder. It's like you have to travel now. We've hit everything. I mean, Nassau, we can get Atlantic sharp nose, oceanic white tip off Cat Island, and then we've got Bonnet Head.
Yep.
That's pretty much it for access in the Atlantic for us that we haven't seen.
Sure. For again the great white would be a one-off encounter, and then you already have a smooth hammerhead, but we have that opportunity here as well for me to get a new one, which would be cool.
Smooth hammerhead, longfin mako.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have right here. You just said it. It's so tiny. I have what until a couple days ago was the only smooth hammerhead tooth that I knew of. And freaking Schellenberg goes and catches a damn tooth again. So now Josh and I are the only two people I know with smooth hammerhead teeth.
He gets more shark teeth from shark dives than anyone that I've ever seen. He's always locked in and ready to go. I think when I'm on those dives, I just don't focus on that stuff so much, and I should, because it's so cool to have a different tooth from every species of shark. And that guy cleans up, man. He's the shark tooth savant from the dives.
He's just lucky he gives credit for who showed him some of the ropes.
Yeah, right.
A lot more shit for all the teeth that he gets. He's
I love it.
He gives credit. We talked about Tiger Beach last week. It's my last summer doing this. We talked about it a little bit. We talked about La Paz, but I don't want to double down and talk bad on the trip we're about to go on. But I'm kind of over how unregulated it is compared to La Paz, and I do want to Atlantic Sharpnose in Nassau is July into August. So next summer, that's something I want to check off. Oh, and Sand Tiger is another one in the Atlantic.
Oh, yes, sir.
We can do that next summer. So anyways, for me, that's why, Sand Tigers early July next year, Nassau late July next year, weekend trips, 2 different species, small pro group to go do both of them. And Isla has just gotten so chaotic where there's hundreds of sharks, and when they're feeding, it's like, all right, whatever, you could spread it out. But when you have 5-6 sharks and 80 to 100 boats, it's just like, that's not
a lot less fun. Yeah, that's for sure.
Not what our people are into. We get out of that's the ethical side of the ecotourism where we're back to drawing a line. And we're like, I don't really want to be jumping in front of an animal like that. I'd rather let it swim to me. But with the chaos of it all there, that ends up not being an option. So we're going to give it one more go this summer. The crocodiles, though, and the cenote are well worth the kickoff of that trip. So even if I get stressed out in Isla, we'll at least have those photos to look back on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. And I totally feel you on the animal respect on that one, because I just feel like that those whale sharks get really, really stressed out when they're getting jumped on all day and there's only a couple of them around. And that's not something I think we want to be a part of if that's going to continually be the case. That's all.
Yeah, and it just showed us in La Paz it can be done right. I mean, there's a limit on
absolutely
time frame. And, if Isla were to do that, they said 80 boats on average a day. If you did 3 time spots with 30 boats in each time slot, like, all right, boats 1 through 30, you go now, 31 through 60, whatever, you go now. And the last fleet goes at 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and you have those windows set up like La Paz with 200-300 whale sharks. Those whale sharks are likely going to stay closer to the surface.
Cool.
Temperance. Got to decide between Mountain Dew and Monster.
Oh, yeah. We're going the Monster route. Is that what we decided on?
I prefer Monster for scientific reasons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like it, just in case.
Just in case. We don't need to be another mark there. I'm getting tired. That was good. I feel like we're getting the hang of this thing. I want my microphone. I want to feel more. That was a bad motion. I shouldn't do that.
Just get a microphone.
Here.
Keep your hands over here. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Go.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah, this one's for you. Oh, gotta love it. I'm excited. This weekend, I don't want to say it in case. I feel like if I say we have a special guest and get excited about it, that's when the weather's going to turn. So I'm just trying to avoid that conversation and just be like, yeah, so we're going out this weekend, hopefully. And then we can back on that one later.
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'm excited, but man, weather sucks. I'm out tomorrow, and it's going to be rough. So I'm like,
It is. Hey, rough. I've had some of my best shark dives in rough weather. They get a little more charged up, and I think it's great.
there's a difference between rough, like the day that we went with the Harrison brothers, and it was like 7-foot seas at 37 seconds.
It was great.
It was like 8-foot seas at 15, 16 seconds. So literally just rolling over them.
It was doable. Yeah, doable.
I'll take that over 3 feet at 5 seconds any day of the week.
I know. It's just going to bam, 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 bam. Yeah.
We're going 7-8 miles. Like, I don't got, my back doesn't have time for that. So,
yeah,
we better get like a great white tiger shark hybrid tomorrow with
blue whales mating or something. It'll be worth the trip.
We're going to get a manatee mating with a tiger shark tomorrow for our efforts.
Yeah, and then you get the sharkatee. It's very rare.
Tiger tea.
Tiger tea. I like that better, actually.
But that could be another serious conversation. We're gonna go beyond the 10 minutes. I don't think my bad. Stop laughing, people. Come on, give us a minute. So, hybridizing, is that the right term for it?
Hybridization.
Hybridizing, whatever that
close enough. Yeah.
Ocean. All right. Mm-hmm. Whatever that would be. The smooth and scalloped hammerhead have apparently made the Carolina hammerhead. So, with population decline and availability of like species, hybridization, whatever you want to zing it or zation it, it's happening. So we could joke about it, but both of those species were genetically tested in the Carolina hammerhead.
They were. And I think that is very, very cool because the head shape is kind of it's a hybrid of the two, right? So it's got that big wide head that the smooth hammerhead has, kind of, but with a little bit more of the ridges that the smooth hammerhead gets as well. So I mean the scallops gets as well. So that's wild.
The other one, it's out there, man. The Dilky.
I've seen a few of those identified on social media the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean a real Dilky, not a I'm a shark diver and I'm calling a dusky a silky or a silky a dusky. I believe that eventually, especially with the decrease in dusky numbers, because now they're untouchable for a little while, believe it's one more year. But between the silkies and the duskies, there's got to be a Dilky out there.
Yeah. Definitely, because they're so close and difficult to tear apart anyway. That genetically they could make a hybrid. It works, so we'll just have to see what happens.
And they're also closely related to. I'm gonna F this up. No, they are closely related to Caribbean reef shark. I believe they're
correct. Yep.
They're all out there. So if the species were to decline enough, never know. So with that note, hang dang was the word of the day last week. Dilky is the word this week.
Dilky. I like it. Hang some dang.
I still can't get over that hang dang gang was already a hashtag before our group used it.
It was pre-populated. It was already in there.
That's
people are using it.
Scary to think that there's more people like us out there.
Yes. There don't need any more people like us.
No, 2.5 shark divers is enough.
That's all we got. Yeah, you don't need any more.
On that note, it is 15 minutes past my bedtime. At this age, folks, we start to get to bed around 8 p.m. And this airs, 36 hours later. So I guess it's not accurate for anybody watching. But I am ready for bed. On to next week, we'll figure out how to get a special guest in here. figure out more of this layout. We're learning the podcast deal, and we'll get more questions going during the week and figure this shit out.
I love it. Stay sharky, my friends.
Any final thoughts other than stay sharky? That was a good final thought. You should have saved that for like 50 seconds.
I should have. I got real excited tonight.
Got really excited.
Came way too early. Final thoughts. You show up to the party. Sometimes you show up to the party and you're just excited to be there, that someone was, wanted you around, and you just came way too early. I think sometimes it happens. But final thoughts. That might have been my final thought, I think, for this evening.
I don't even know where I'd go with that. On to next week. We've got this program here set up. Riverside. Here's their little...
Powered by Riverside FM.
So we got their little nod. Maybe we'll get sponsorship there. On that note, good night.